She had not expected him to be so handsome. That was the thought Maureen had, walking toward him down the white carpet with her hand in her mother's arm and the whole summer morning spread out around her, the yellow pines, the wildflowers, the sky that had decided, apparently, to be excessive about it. She had seen Gerard in every light and every mood and every condition, and she still had not been prepared for this. He stood at the end of the aisle in black, perfectly still, and watched her come to him. The thought arrived fully formed, without permission. Beside her, Roanna made a small sound that was not quite a laugh. Maureen realized she had said it aloud and kept walking with great composure, her eyes fixed straight ahead. Gerard had stopped breathing somewhere around the moment she appeared. He knew her face. He knew every version of it, asleep and arguing and laughing and quietly reading, lit by candlelight and by morning and by the particular expression she made when she was about to say something she thought was funnier than it was. He knew her face completely. He had not been prepared for this version of it either. She walked toward him through the summer light in white that caught and scattered it like something that couldn't be held, and he stood there with his fists closed at his sides because his hands wanted to do something and there was nothing yet for them to do, and he could not breathe properly, and behind him Sebastian cleared his throat with the quiet authority of a man who has managed worse crises. "Your Grace," Sebastian said, barely audible. "You're frightening people. Breathe. Lower your momentum." Gerard breathed. The cold that had been rising around him receded. He kept his eyes on her and did not look at anything else. She was still too far away. He took one step forward. Then another. The guests watched, amused and discreet, as the Duke of the West abandoned the end of the aisle entirely and closed half the remaining distance himself. Roanna, when he reached them, looked up at him with an expression of deep and private amusement. She did not say anything about it. She simply took her daughter's hand, held it for one quiet moment, then placed it in Gerard's outstretched palm. "Please take care of her," she said. "Yes," Gerard said, which was not an elaborate promise, but he meant it the way some people mean whole speeches. Maureen set her hand in his. He looked down at it. "Your wrist?" "It's become a habit," Maureen said, her voice brimming. She curled her fingers and held his hand properly. He held it back. The tension left his face as though someone had simply lifted it away. The priest spoke at length and with great solemnity. Maureen heard it at a slight remove, the way one hears music from another room. She was looking at Gerard, and he was looking at her, and the words moved around them without quite landing. Then it was time, and Gerard reached up with hands that were not entirely steady and pushed her veil back from her face. Her eyes met his. Green and direct and entirely present, the way they always were, the way they had been from the very beginning, looking at him as though he was not difficult or frightening or to be managed carefully. Just looked at. He swallowed. "Maureen." His voice came out lower than intended. In sickness or in health, he had rehearsed none of this and it didn't matter. The words were finding themselves. He thought of the years before her, the blindness, the pain, the particular gray quality of days that had to be endured rather than lived. He had not thought of himself as lonely then because he had not known what the alternative felt like. Now he knew. He could not go back to not knowing. And whether alone or with the whole world watching, Maureen lowered her eyes. Her lashes were wet. She thought of the crow who had run away. She thought of the Count who had waited without knowing he was waiting. She thought of all the moments she had nearly chosen differently, had nearly been sensible about it, and hadn't, and wasn't, and was so glad. Gerard. Her voice was steady. She had decided it would be steady. When you're sad and when you're glad. When things are easy and when they are not. She looked up. Even when we are old, and the world has changed, and we've forgotten half of it, the corner of her mouth lifted. "Let's stay together." "I will stay with you," he said, at exactly the same moment. A breath of surprised laughter moved through the gathered guests. Neither of the two people getting married noticed. "The kiss of promise," the priest said. Gerard kissed her. Above them, the sky split open in blue and gold, flower-shaped fireworks blooming across the summer morning, and the crowd erupted, and neither of them noticed that either, not immediately. Marine was the one who finally broke away, turning toward the sound. Gerard's arm tightened around her waist. "That's enough," he said. "I want to see a week," he said, which was not a logical sentence and communicated itself perfectly. He turned her back and kissed her again, and Marine, after a token moment of protest, decided that the fireworks could continue without her attention for a little while longer. The celebration spread across the castle grounds with the undisciplined joy of something that had been anticipated for too long. A troupe of performers had set up near the garden, fire and juggling and improbable feats of balance, and the children Ronnie and Minnie and Joseph and Bree stood before them with their mouths open, completely motionless, which was the highest compliment available to them. Pan Pan had located the food table and stationed herself there with the focused vigilance of someone protecting a strategic asset. She ate with great concentration and looked up periodically to confirm that no one was approaching. The knights of the castle had formed their own celebration some distance away, which involved quantities of beer and increasingly loud expressions of goodwill. Elmise and Julia clapped until their palms ached and kept clapping. Gerard's 4 nieces circled the couple like a small, exuberant weather system, scattering flower petals and exclaiming in the voices of children who have been promised this event for months. Peridot, smallest and most determined, kept throwing her handful directly at her uncle, who was forced to intercept flower petals with his free hand while maintaining his dignity. "Congratulations," she announced, for the 5th time. "Thank you," he said, for the 5th time, with complete sincerity. He looked at the 4 of them, their faces so like their mother's that something in him ached with it, sweetly, the way grief does when it has softened with time and love into something almost bearable, and he glanced up for a moment at the sky without meaning to. He thought she probably was. Brianna found them near the rose garden, her eyes aggressively red, dabbing at them with a handkerchief that was not equal to the task. Beside her, Serene was using her sleeve with the brisk efficiency of someone who has decided that if she is going to cry she is going to do it practically. Marine stared at them. "Both of you, don't," Brianna said. "I wasn't going to say anything." "You were going to say something." Marine opened her arms, and both of them walked into the embrace at the same time, and for a moment the 3 of them stood like that in the middle of the celebration, holding on. The carriage arrived with flowers on it and a one-eyed driver who bowed to Gerard with the particular expression of a man delivering something he knows will not be well received. "A congratulatory gift," news announced, "from His Imperial Highness Prince Tan of the Sanders Empire." Gerard's expression went immediately flat. "Return it." "What is it?" Marine asked, craning around him. News opened the carriage door. Candy poured out, an impossible quantity of it, tumbling across the stones, rolling into the grass, eliciting a shriek of delight from approximately every child in the vicinity. Marine stared at it. Then she laughed, a real one, startled out of her. She could hear it, somehow. "Sweetie. There is also a card," News said. Gerard took it before Marine could. He read it. His expression did something complicated. "What does it say?" "Nothing of consequence." He crumpled it and threw it with considerable feeling into the tree line. Somewhere in the forest, a bird startled. Marine looked at the trajectory of the card, looked at Gerard, and decided not to pursue the matter. News, already retreating toward his carriage, allowed himself a small private smile. Some things never changed. Later, the fireworks having faded, the feast ongoing, the children having eaten more candy than was advisable, Gerard leaned close to Marine's ear under the cover of general celebration. "Shall we go in?" Marine turned to look at him. Around them, guests and family and household staff filled every corner of the grounds. The sun was still well above the horizon. "Now? You've been working yourself to nothing for a month," he said, raising his voice to Carrie. "You need to rest." Marine blinked at him. He was already steering her, one hand at her waist, with the purposeful momentum of someone who has made a decision. I'm not. You've overexerted yourself, he announced, to no one in particular and therefore everyone. I've rest, he said firmly, moving through the crowd, which was parting for him with the expression of people who understand exactly what is happening and have chosen to be polite about it. Marine put her arms around his neck and dropped her voice to something only he could hear. Is this really how you intend to conduct yourself? It's been a week, he said simply. She looked at him, the complete absence of embarrassment, the total conviction, the way his eyes when they found hers still had that quality, that particular quality she had never found the right word for, and she thought, yes, all right, fine. You're still the protagonist, she said. He smiled. It was the unguarded kind. You haven't called me that in a long time. Because you are one. She looked at him, and meant it entirely. So. Does your story have a happy ending? He stepped through the doorway with her, into the cool and the quiet. Obviously, he said. Obviously it does.